Yesterday, the DA Federal Executive Council met to discuss the fate of Cape Town Mayor Patricia Delille. Delille has been facing 2 investigations where the party is accusing her of maladministration and another by the council that claims she tried to ignore serious allegations against senior managers. The outcome of that meeting basically found that that Delille is accused of maladministration and trying to ignore serious allegations in her administration. So joining us now to talk a little bit more about this, we have the DA leader, Musi Maimane, in our Parliamentary Studios, I beg your pardon. Thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, and good morning to all the people of South Africa. Thank you so much for having us, Leah.
All right, so this has been a very difficult time for the DA. It certainly has, and there's been so much speculation. Why has it taken so long to get to this point?
Leah, when you are dealing with matters such as this one, it requires you as an organization to ensure that you follow the right due process, you ensure that all rights of individuals are in fact protected. And to be fair, when we took over in December, we looked at the matter. We met on the 10th of December. We assessed what the process was. We gave the mayor the right to respond. We also allowed the process by Bowman Gilfillan to be able to come to its own completion at the end of last year. And therefore, as early as it is now, we're taking swift action and have made a decision that on the basis of an independent report, this is not the party acting, it's an independent report that investigated the matter. And we believe that in that context, we can certainly say that we've acted in the quickest way possible and will ensure that we get an outcome.
However, critics are saying that you have been too quiet as the leader of the party.
Leanne, I think it's important to recognize the fact that when it comes to matters of disciplinaries, it's not incumbent upon me to be able to deal with those. The party is engaged in the process. My job is to ensure that the organization upholds its own institution, it follows its own process, and it ensures that it complies with its own constitutional obligations. And therefore, it would be amiss of me to begin to engage in a process that I haven't had all the reports been put before me. It's important that when you deal with such processes, as leader of the party, I remain the leader of the whole organization. And therefore, I believe that as an organization, we've done the right thing, and it's important that we keep the integrity of the process of the party in place.
Yeah. You know, what happens in a case like this, and I know that the DA would be the first to criticize the ANC if something like this was happening, and particularly when it comes to speculation from the public, people not knowing the details, then leaks starting to happen. And as I say, the DA would be criticizing the way the events have unfolded. Have you learned lessons from this? I mean, is this something that if you had to do it again, you would handle it differently? Or are you quite satisfied with the way the DA's handled it?
Leanne, I think this is what distinguishes the DA from everybody else. One is when we thought that when we had an inclination to say something was amiss, we went and investigated it. We've taken the public into our own confidence to say, here are the challenges that went on in the organization. We sent as a federal executive, we sent a very competent team of South Africans to go and investigate the matter. And so I think in this regard, we've distinguished ourselves ahead of any other organization. If you think about what other, especially what the ANC would have done, the people of South Africa would be none the wiser as to what the discussions would be. They'd certainly not be aware of what the exact charges will be and what the process is going to be subsequent to that. I believe we've handled it. Again, any legal process takes far too long. I know that I wish we could have been much quicker, but when you have to deal with this process in a legal way, it does take its time because you require representation from all angles. So what I would have liked to do is have the process done much quicker, but I recognize the fact that we have to allow, for example, an independent body like Bowman Gilfillan to be able to do its job, do it thoroughly, so that there's no comeback subsequent to that. So it is difficult, but you have to ensure that the process is right. And I believe as a party, we've been able to say, here's where we are, here are the consequences of the issue, and now we're taking the management of the city of Cape Town, and we want to ensure that we take it forward in the right way.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that there's factionalism within the DA, particularly in the city of Cape Town, which is causing these major issues. And, on the one side, you hear the words from Patricia de Lille, then you hear from James Self, then you hear from somebody else. And this seems to be a spat within the media. So let's talk about the factionalism. Are you concerned that the DA, we worry about the ANC and the unity, and yet it's almost replicating within the governing structures of the DA? Are you concerned about these factions?
It is a concern, and what the great difficulty is in any other political environment is the fact that you've got to provide a leadership that brings everybody together. The very nature of politics is often that people will come into particular roles of leadership, and therefore you have a duty to ensure that you bring everybody together. They focus on the objectives that you've set themselves. And sometimes that's why we're taking deliberate action, not only against the mayor, but we're saying, what happens in the broad leadership of the organization so you can bring it on board? To get people to work together, sometimes I think the word faction is unique to politics. It's true in any environment where you've got to get a whole lot of people working together towards a common goal. Everybody has to be aligned towards particular objectives, and that's why the call towards ensuring that there's much stronger leadership, that there's better focus in the organization becomes better. The other reality behind it is that often you find in a growing organization, when you've got new people, you've got to ensure that those values are consistent all across. And that process of inculcating values throughout does take a period of time that requires very strong leadership to make sure that to say, you may have come from this organization or you may have behaved like this here. Here in the DA, we behave in a particular manner. We uphold certain values, values of fairness, values of non-racialism, values where there's due process, that in fact we act in a way to hold government to account. So those values become crucial, and you've got to keep ensuring that in any organization, you ensure that people come on board to learn those values and to work according to those values.
Do you really believe that? Because a lot of people are very concerned about that issue you brought up of non-racialism within the DA, and that there are just figureheads and people that are fronting a lot of issues that perhaps this is a white liberal party and it's not necessarily this non-racialist party that you keep on saying that you are. For instance, in the city of Cape Town, again, there's this these accusations that are rearing their heads saying, all right, well, Delille has served her purpose, you've got the coloured vote, now let's get rid of her and sort of move on to our next leader. And that man being touted, of course, is Bongi Nkosi Madikizela. Let's address that.
That cannot be, that is a complete fabrication. For people to say that there's some conspiracy here, then they must then be attacking the integrity of what Bowman Gilfillan is. What drives this particular process is an independent auditing firm that sought to do an investigation. So it's not about saying you are kicking an individual out because of this. It doesn't matter what race they would be. If there are serious challenges, they must be investigated. I think any South African, regardless of race, gender, religion, would welcome that issue. When it comes to the question of non-racialism, it is a project that is at the center of what the DA does. We are the only party that in fact represents all races in South Africa, black, white, Indian and colored. We represent all religions. It's the same party where in fact you can have a Jew sit with a Muslim in the same caucus. It is the same party where 8 out of the 9 provincial leaders are in fact black African. It is the same party where in fact if we thought to ourselves this party must now remove a particular race or whatever, then there's no ways you would have appointed someone like Herman Mashaba or Solim Simanga to be mayors in big metros. In fact, much bigger. Johannesburg is much bigger than even Cape Town. So the suggestion that the party is of a particular race is fictitious and driven by people who in fact have they themselves given up on the idea of a non-racial South Africa. Is it a difficult exercise to bring everybody together? This is the project of South Africa. That's why even in a country such as ours, across all, you are always going to be found with a difficulty of saying, how do you bring South Africans together to work towards particular objectives? And this is something that DA, as the country is grappling with it, we are working towards ensuring that we can demonstrate that it is absolutely possible. But you can't do it if you don't say to ourselves, values in fact do translate races. They go beyond that. Because you and I might be of different races does not mean that we maybe don't care about fairness. We both care about the future of our kids. We both care about, in fact, ensuring that poor South Africans are looked after. We care that people must find work. And that is the mission. It's not, you can't say it's a mission of a particular race. It's a mission of a people group across South Africa who share those values.
All right. Musi, we're going to take a break here on the program. When we return, we'll continue the conversation. But I think what's of utmost importance now is the water issue in the Western Cape, because that, of course, is affecting the Cape Townians and those in the area around the Western Cape immensely. And with all of this infighting and the problems in the leadership, where does it leave that? So stay with us. We'll get word from the leader of the DA after this.